Hey chatters, welcome back to Coding with the Professor. We're actually going to start coding, I swear. In this one, we're going to code. So I'm going to actually be using Claude today. You can do all this in ChatGPT too. Claude, at least this point in time, is just better at coding, to me at least. So we're going to move over there, but you can do this in ChatGPT. You can use Echoed. We're going to use Echoed here. I also want to show you some interesting functionality that's somewhat new for Claude as well, which is projects. Projects are like GPTs, but for Claude. So if you come to the sidebar here, there's this projects tab, and you'll see here, I have some that I've already created, the Professor and Echoed. You can create your own right here. Let's head into Echoed. So first off, you have your system prompt, your custom instructions. So we have the Echoed prompt in here to help us out. And you can obviously add any sort of knowledge base that you want to, which is really helpful for coding. The name of the game here is use documentation to help. It doesn't have access to the internet. Claude doesn't, at least at this point. And so what that means is that you're going to have to feed it everything manually, but that's okay. First, let's come up with some idea of what we want to do. And the idea I was thinking that would be very useful to just about anybody is you have audio, you want to transcribe it into text. It's really important to have text with all these LLMs. So maybe you have podcasts you like, maybe you have recordings of yourself, voice notes, whatever it is. Let's make it as simple and cheap as possible for you to do this. So with that in mind, now we have our idea. Let's actually start off with a query. So we're going to say, I want to create a program, takes audio files and turns them into text using OpenAI's Whisper API. So for those who don't know, there are tons of APIs out there in the world. Pretty much all they are is the modular plugin you can use to access an external application, typically over the web. So what we want to do is just use what OpenAI has already created, which is the Whisper API, which is really good at taking audio and transcribing it to text. The problem is, since this doesn't have the internet, it doesn't have the most up-to-date information about the Whisper API and its training necessarily. So that means we got to head over and grab it so we can provide it as context. So you'll see here a quick Google search brought me here for the API reference audio create transcription. And so all I want to do is we make sure that this says Python, because we're going to be coding in Python for this at least. And then we're going to highlight all of this and we're going to bring it back over to Claude. I'm going to add it in here as reference, maybe give it some context. No, it has enough context, I think. And then we're just going to send this and we're going to see what it comes up with. Oh, this is great. So this is another thing that Claude does. It's called artifacts, which you can turn on by going down here and just making sure that it's on. It has this little sidebar for your code, and it can do all kinds of other stuff, which we'll test out. But let's just scroll up here and check it out. So it's doing what I wanted to do first, which is to actually outline what this is going to look like. So let's follow this instructions and open up VS Code and start putting this stuff in here. Here I am in VS Code. You're going to want to open a new folder. And so what that means is just go to wherever you're keeping all your code, set up a new folder. I call this one transcriber, and then just open that folder and it'll look something like this. Okay, we want to copy what this is. So we're going to call it new file. Okay, when that happens, we're going to call it main.py. Main.py is very common when you're working in any language. It might be something like index.js or whatever. This is just going to be the main file that everything kind of runs through. You might have things very modular, but this is going to be the one that brings everything together and runs it. So let's take, we got main.py. The next we got requirements.txt. This is what's going to tell it, like, what do I need to download, the dependencies, the libraries, all that kind of stuff. And we're going to want to do a .env file. A .env file is just where you're going to securely store your API key so no one can steal it and hack you. So you'll see it's already given us the main.py. So let's copy the contents and then let's bring it into our main.py file and just paste it in there. Okay, let's open up the requirements.txt. We'll see here we got just a couple things. Let's copy that. Let's open it up. And then we got our .env. Same thing. Let's go in here. We'll paste this in. And we're going to put our API key right in here. I'm not going to show you that, but you just want to replace your API key with your actual API key. If you don't know how to do that, just again, Google this or Perplexity or whatever you use. Even ChatGPT can probably tell you. You want to go and set up an API key on your dashboard and make sure you have billing set up as well. This is going to cost a little bit of money. I don't know how to code or read code, so comments are very important. Let's take a look at this code and see if there's anything we can spot before we try to run it that might not work or might not be to our preferences. So we'll start up here, and all it's doing is it's importing those dependencies we were talking about. And it's going to load the env file, so it's going to bring in your OpenAI key, so we understand that so far. Then it's going to transcribe the audio, so use the Whisper API, the path to the audio file, optional language code, transcription text. Okay, this all seems pretty good. The language. And then it's saying enter the path to your audio file, enter the language code optional, and then it's going to create this. So there's a couple things I'm already seeing here. One is I don't really want to have to give the file path every time. That's a little annoying. I'd rather click and drag. So let's add that into the code and provide some feedback. So I'm going to say good start, but let have an input folder for the audio and an output folder when it's been processed and a transcription folder for the text doc. And let's just, because I love Markdown so much, let's put the text file in Markdown. And that's probably good enough. Let's see what it comes up with. Okay, so you'll see here, we've now added some folders. That's what this slash means. So let's just copy that structure here. We'll right click, we'll do new folder, we'll do input. So I want to make sure I see just input, new folder, output, and then new folder, transcription. Okay. So now we have those folders. It's come up with some updated code here. So let's copy that. We'll bring it back to our main.py and we will paste that in here. Now we can run our code, or can we? Usually you have to install your dependencies, which is why we have this requirements.txt file. So we have to do something called pip install -r space requirements.txt, and we'll hit enter. And it should download everything that we need to download. You'll see here we have a couple things that have not been resolved. That's fine. Typically all you got to do is X out, and then we'll come back in. And they should be resolved. You'll see we got nothing popping up saying it's not going to work. It wants to set up a development environment, so we can do that. We can have it do a pyenv. Let's do pip install again. Okay, this time it's asking us to set up an environment. Let's actually do that. This is usually best practice. We'll have a look at the requirements.text for the dependencies. And this is just going to make it so it's playing around in its own little playground with you, instead of it messing with what's locally on your computer. This might take a minute, but you can see here we've started our .env file, which is going to be the virtual environment. Okay, everything should be downloaded now. Let's run this thing and see if it works. Python main.py. Enter the language code. So we're going to skip this, but this is a good sign. Seems like it's working. Okay, processed it. Let's go to, oh, look, so thought1, date, and there you go. It worked. That wasn't too bad, was it? So we just need to do a couple more things before we get this up on GitHub. First off, make sure you have a .gitignore. I made mistakes during this video. I accidentally uploaded my .env file, which has my API key, so it wasn't working. So thanks to GitHub for not letting me do that. But the other thing is we need to come up with a better name for this. So help me brainstorm some names for this program that will be catchy and fun and simple. Branding. Got so many. I'm gonna go with BabbleScribe. Yeah, let's do that. So let me come in and I'll change the name here. Now we're ready to get this up on GitHub. So you can do it through setting it up on source control over here, but I want to show you how to actually do it on the website, just in case that's your preference. So we'll come back here. We'll start a new repository. We can do it here as well. We'll call it public, and I'm just going to call it BabbleScribe. Create a new repository. And here we go. We have our new repo. Let's upload an existing file. We can just come into here. Make sure to only add the things that you really want to add. We'll do open. Need to commit changes. And there you go. Now you can go and find this code and you can transcribe whatever you want to transcribe. I'll add a README to this, but just as a reminder, I hope this is simple. You download or pull the code. It's open source now. You can find it. You will install the dependencies by doing the pip install -r space requirements.txt. And then you'll run Python space main.py in the terminal and it'll transcribe for you. So happy transcribing with BabbleScribe. And let me know how it goes. And I hope this opens some things up for you in terms of how to use AI to help you code. There was a lot of video I cut out of this because it was me like messing around and making mistakes and stuff. That's going to happen. This is not a one and done. I press a button and it's going to work type of situation. You really are going to need to go back and forth, figuring out what these errors are and how to fix them. So be patient, keep going at it, and you will get better with time. Believe me. Thanks for listening, chatters, and I hope you can go and code something fun for yourself now.